Last month in Tuscany, Italy, an 8th-generation butcher by the name of Dario Cecchini totally blew my mind for so many reasons, the least of which is the incredible customer experience he and his team deliver. But trust me, that is just the tip of a very large iceberg. It's a meaty and slightly teary episode 638 of the 13-year-old, award-winning, small business, big marketing podcast.
Well, I said, welcome to a small business marketing show where successful small business owners share their souls to take your marketing straight to the lead. Now, here's your host, Mr. Timbo Reid.
And welcome back to your weekly dose of butchered marketing. I'm your host, Timbo Reid, and I have an insatiable curiosity for uncovering marketing ideas that help businesses just like yours to grow. I do that through weekly in-depth conversations with successful business founders that have walked the path before us. You, infinitely more importantly, are a motivated business owner, and you're ready to crank out some great marketing to build that beautiful business of yours into the empire it absolutely deserves to be. As per usual, team, there's marketing GOLD dripping from the ceiling over here at Small Business Big Marketing's HQ. So let's get stuck right in. A warm welcome to my new Patreon members, Justin Southall and Paul Bailey. Thanks so much, guys, for supporting the work I do for small businesses. It's hugely appreciated and helps me do what I do best. Well, some would argue that, but I hope most of you agree. If you're not one of the 45 motivated business owners who have joined, then please give it some consideration, especially if you're looking for additional marketing support and ideas from yours truly. Membership starts at a tax-deductible $8.50 per month with no lock-in contracts. None. Zip. Check it out over at patreon.com/marketing podcast. I'm so excited and honoured to bring you this interview. Dario Cecchini is an 8th-generation butcher based in the small Tuscan town of Panzano, Italy. Population, 1,152. I discovered him last month when Sarah and we were in Tuscany, Googled fun things to do in Tuscany, and one travel blogger was adamant that a visit to Dario's butcher shop was an absolute must. In fact, the blogger went on to say that not only should you visit his butcher shop, but you should absolutely book a seat at his now famous long table lunch or dinner that he holds every day on the first floor of his shop. 6 courses of the beast with all the Chianti and Grappa you can drink for €50 each. At that point, they had my attention, as both Sarah and I love a good feed at a long table. But like, who doesn't? They're a lot of fun. So we tried to book online, but there's no spots left. Instead, we rolled up one morning about 9 a.m, and that's where the fun began. Allow me to paint the picture. Dario's butcher shop is in a nondescript side street of Panzano, nestled in between a souvenir shop and the local post office. If it weren't for AC/DC and Andrea Bocelli playing at full volume on high rotation, not at the same time, or waiters offering you a free glass or 4 of Chianti as you wandered past, you'd be excused for walking straight by. Yep, you heard right. A butcher shop playing akadaka and opera and serving free wine at 9 a.m. on a weekday. This happens every day of the year, by the way, except Christmas Day. After a quick tipple out on the street, Sarah and I wandered into Dario's butcher shop, where we were warmly greeted by Grant, a friendly Scottish fellow who acted as a sort of maitre d'. Yes, a butcher shop with a maitre d'. He welcomed us, asked us where we were from, and suggested we make ourselves at home, at which point I asked him, trying to hide my desperation, "Hey Grant, what's the chance of a couple of seats at today's long lunch?" Miraculously, there were. So after paying our €50 each at the booking office up the road, yes, a butcher shop with a booking office, we settled in to a couple more Chiantis and got talking to some of the other 170 people from all over the world who we'd be joining at the long table. I then laid eyes on the great man himself. There he was, standing behind his chopping board that his great-great-great-great-great-grandfather had worked on, surrounded by the most amazing cuts of meat, cleaver in hand. 8th generation butcher Dario Cecchini, dressed in all his finery, finished off with an impressive handlebar moustache. So what's the first thing Timbo the tourist does? Ask for a photo, of course, at which point Dario puts his arm around me, sticks his chest out like the proud butcher that he is, and the first selfie of many were taken. After a couple more glasses of Chianti, midday swung around and we were ushered upstairs to a room full of long tables and a roaring barbecue of hot coals ready to cook the first of 6 meaty dishes. Apologies to all you vegetarians and vegans. Now, I could go on and tell you about what an amazing lunch it was, how incredible the staff were at creating an unbelievable customer experience, how tasty the various courses were, how much fun it was sitting between and getting not so quietly pissed with folk from all over the world, or how at one point Dario comes out to thank everyone and yells out, "Carne diem," at the top of his voice. That's his take on the Latin carpe diem, aka seize the day. However, I'm sure you get the picture. Plus, if you're a member of my Patreon, you can watch a video of it over at patreon.com/marketing podcast. The point of this interview is much deeper than me sharing my travel stories. What I want to get across to you is that Dario Cecchini is a rare breed of business owner who overflows with love and passion for what he does and who genuinely wants to share this with his precious customers. Dario is a man who operates from a strong set of values passed down through 8 generations. He's not scared of hard work and is full of pride in absolutely everything he does. This is also evident in all his staff who absolutely love him. As a result, this humble Tuscan butcher has put his hometown of Panzano on the world map. Not only does he have a thriving butcher shop and rooms full of long tables that accommodate hundreds each day, he also has a food truck on the city limits, a second restaurant 2 hours away, and an entire shop dedicated to merch. Tell me, who doesn't love a good bit of merch? He's also built a strong personal brand, so much so that an entire episode of the Netflix series Chef's Table is dedicated to this wonderful human being. Yes, Dario had a huge impact on me in the short time I spent with him, and I hope I've gone some way in this interview to impart why, so that you too can benefit from how he goes about his life and his business. Yes, you'll discover the power of running a value-based business and how an unforgettable customer experience is built, but you'll also be reminded of the power of a mentor. Dario's got a beautiful mentor story. The importance of love in running a business and why creating a successful business is much more a feeling than it is an algorithm. Dario's words, not mine. In fact, in the same breath, he says, and I quote, "You can only truly see with your heart," end quote. And he's talking about business and life. Now, before we meet him, 3 things I want you to note. Dario doesn't speak English, so his beautiful wife, Kim, who's also his business partner, does the translating. Please don't let this put you off, as half the magic is hearing Dario speak in his thick and passionate and musical Italian accent. Secondly, there are times during this interview where all 3 of us get quite teary, quite emotional, in a very positive way. So as if that's not your style, but it's mine, and Dario's, and Kim's. Thirdly, if you'd like to watch an excerpt of this interview, then head over to smallbusinessbigmarketing.com/638, or you can watch the full interview over at patreon.com/marketing podcast. Enough from me. I started off with the biggest of questions. Why does he love AC/DC so much? So Dario and Kim, thank you so much for making time to do this.
Grazie.
Grazie mille a te.
And most importantly, thank you for making my and Sarah's trip to Europe, not just Panzano or Tuscany, quite amazing. We've had an incredible time in your hometown.
Ci siamo divertiti molto io e la mia moglie.
Bene.
Grazie anche per quello.
Grazie mille.
Now,
Thank you to you.
Pleasure. I'm going to start with the most important questions and then we'll get stuck into business. I come from Australia.
Vengo dalla strada.
I love AC/DC.
Adoro
Why do you love AC/DC?
Akadaka.
Sì.
Akadaka.
A te perché ti piace tanto?
È una musica, io adoro la musica e ho bisogno della musica per lavorare meglio.
I love music and I need music to work better.
What's your favourite Akadaka song?
Tuo preferito?
Il me è Hells Bells.
Yes, Hells Bells. I like it. I like Thunderstruck.
Bene.
A lui piace Thunderstruck.
And your favourite cut of meat, again, before we get stuck into business?
Il tuo taglio preferito prima di cominciare a parlare di affari?
Il taglio preferito di carne.
Sì.
Sono i ginocchi di manzo da fare bolliti con la ricetta della mia nonna Elina.
That would be boiled beef knees, a recipe that was handed down to me from my nonna Elina, my grandmother.
Ah, beautiful. Boiled beef knees is not something we have in Australia.
Non è una cosa che si mangia in Australia.
Ma non si mangia molto nemmeno in Italia.
Not even in Italy is this a particularly common dish.
È che siamo cresciuti mangiando in questa piccola famiglia di macellai tutto quello che i clienti non volevano.
But I, growing up in a family of butchers, I was brought up eating all of the cuts that our clients were less interested in purchasing.
E la mia nonna, che era una grande cuoca, ha sviluppato ricette incredibili per salvare quello che si chiamano gli avanzi.
And my grandmother, who was an amazing cook, she invented and used all kinds of ways to not waste anything, to use the cuts that were, let's say, leftovers.
It's amazing because I come from Melbourne in Australia. I've been to Guy Grossi's restaurant a number of times. I've interviewed Guy Grossi on this podcast, and even he doesn't have beef knees on his menu.
Vengo da Melbourne, ho intervistato anche Guy Grossi e nemmeno lui ha i ginocchi sul menù.
Guy Grossi è la nostra famiglia in Australia.
Guy Grossi is family for us in Australia.
Guy e Liz,
and for us.
la sorella.
And his sister Liz as well.
Aha. Now, getting stuck into the business, you were a vet before a butcher. What happened?
Parlando di affari, eri un veterinario prima di essere un macellaio. Che è successo?
Studiavo veterinaria all'università.
I was studying veterinary science at university.
Avevo lo spirito romantico del veterinario.
And I had the romantic spirit of a veterinarian.
Essendo cresciuto in una famiglia di macellai,
Since I grew up in a family of butchers,
ho frequentato fino dai primi anni, avevo 3 anni, quando ho cominciato a viaggiare con il mio babbo dai contadini nelle fattorie.
but by the time I was just 3, I was already traveling around with my father, visiting the farmers at their farms.
E mi ricordo gli odori della campagna, gli animali nelle stalle, le trattative per l'acquisto, la macellazione.
I remember the smell of the barns. I remember the deals that were made.
E io volevo aiutare le famiglie dei contadini a vivere meglio.
And my dream was to help the farming families to live a little bit better.
E anche gli animali, quindi, a vivere meglio.
And so also the animals to live a little bit better.
Ho sempre avuto questa idea che gli animali debbano avere una vita felice
I always had this idea that animals should be given a good, happy life.
e che i contadini dovessero avere una vita meno faticosa di conseguenza.
And that farmers should have a life that was less exhausting.
From what I understand, Dario came from a line of butchers. He's 3rd or 4th generation butcher.
Ho capito che tu sei terzo, quarto generazione macellaio.
Ottavo,
8th generation.
di padre in figlio sempre.
Passed on from father to son directly.
Was Dario the first of that generation, for the first generation to decide to go into veterinary as opposed to butchering because he was opposed to the killing of animals?
Eri primo di questa linea di pensare a fare il veterinario perché eri contro l'uccidere degli animali?
Ma io non ero assolutamente contro l'uccidere gli animali.
I was in no way against killing animals.
La visione
Oh, there's another booking. That's okay.
è
Feel free
tua.
to,
Questo.
Sì.
So we were saying he was no way opposed to the killing of animals, but...
Sì.
So you are
Allora.
in nessun modo contro l'uccidere degli animali.
Ma la visione del veterinario di campagna è completamente diversa da quello che uno può pensare in città.
So I think here the vision, our idea of what a country veterinarian is very different from our idea of that most people have of what a normal veterinarian does.
Noi ci prendiamo cura della nascita e della vita degli animali in modo che abbiano la vita più felice possibile.
My idea is that we need to take care of the birth and the life of an animal so that the animal has the happiest life possible.
Anche perché questa vita di cui ci prendiamo cura diventerà il nostro nutrimento.
Because also the life that we are taking care of for the animal is going to be part of our life as well.
Non parliamo di stelle Michelin, non parliamo di piatti raffinatissimi dei cuochi, ma parliamo dell'archetipo.
We're not talking about Michelin stars. We're not talking about fancy restaurants. We're talking about an archetype.
Parliamo del rispetto e della responsabilità di allevare animali.
Talking about respect and taking responsibility for raising animals well.
Dell'onestà di dare loro una morte dignitosa.
To have also the honesty of giving them a dignified, compassionate death.
E di usare tutto bene dal naso alla coda.
And then to use every part well in the best way possible from
E
nose to tail.
soprattutto, come facciamo nella macelleria Cecchini,
And more than anything, as we do in our butcher shop,
di avere grandi tavoli conviviali in cui tutti mangiano insieme lo stesso cibo allo stesso prezzo.
I follow that up by having these long convivial tables where everybody sits down, has the same meal at the same price at the same time.
Perché il consumare carne insieme
Because eating meat together
è onorare il sacrificio, è la morte che nutre la vita.
is my way of honoring the animal, the sacrifice. It's honoring the sacrifice and the gift that was given to us to nourish our own lives.
Io sono cresciuto con questo spirito, con questa filosofia di famiglia
I was brought up with this spirit, with this philosophy in my family.
e volevo continuare da veterinario ad aiutare questa filosofia.
And as a veterinarian, my idea was to continue to aid this philosophy, to support this philosophy.
I genitori sono morti troppo presto, non c'erano soldi per continuare l'università.
But what happened was my parents passed away very early, and our family was left without money for me to continue my studies.
E in 2 giorni mi sono trovato da un'aula di università al banco di macelleria da solo.
And in just 2 days, I found myself shifted from a university classroom to standing behind the butcher shop counter alone.
La mamma era già morta e il babbo è stato ricoverato di urgenza in ospedale.
My mother passed away when I was younger, and my father in that moment was hospitalized.
Ma ho semplicemente mantenuto questa filosofia dal punto di vista del macellaio.
So I simply decided to carry on my ideas, but from the point of view of a butcher. Ti ha chiesto come ti sei sentito in questo momento di perdita.
Un disastro.
I felt like a disaster.
La paura di non riuscire a farcela, la paura di non riuscire a sopravvivere,
I was terrified of not making it. I was terrified of not surviving.
la paura del fallimento
I was terrified of failing.
e l'angoscia della morte di essere rimasto solo.
And the anguish that comes along with finding yourself suddenly alone.
How did you overcome that?
E come l'hai superato?
Lavorando.
Working.
Lavorando.
Never look back.
Non hai guardato indietro?
Sempre, anche ora.
Yeah, I looked back. I still look back.
Bisogna sempre guardare indietro per poter andare avanti,
I think you need to look back in order to move forward,
ma non fermarsi
but never
a
stop.
guardare indietro.
Never stop and dwell in
avere
looking in your past.
sempre la coscienza, ma anche la visione. Credo che mi ha salvato non solo la grande forza di lavorare, ma mi ha salvato soprattutto lo spirito di famiglia, la tradizione di famiglia.
I think that I wasn't saved just by my energy to put lots into my work, but also by the traditions that I'm coming from.
E l'orgoglio di essere l'ottava generazione di una famiglia di macellai.
And the pride that I hold in being the 8th generation of a family of butchers.
I know Dario's not a religious man, but does he think that it was his father's way of ensuring that the butchering in the family continued?
Non sei, mi sa, religioso, ma forse era questo il modo di tuo babbo di assicurare che il lavoro andava avanti.
È una cosa molto particolare perché tutti hanno la speranza, tutte le religioni hanno la speranza dopo la morte.
That's interesting. All religions have some sort of hope about the afterlife.
La nostra base religiosa, la nostra tradizione etrusca,
our Etruscan base
è la speranza della vita.
Is hope in life.
Non ci preoccupiamo molto cosa succede dopo.
We don't actually think much about what's going to happen after.
Speriamo bene.
We hope something good.
Ma tutti i giorni è carne diem.
But every day is carne diem.
È il nostro mantra. Ma volevo dire anche un'altra cosa.
That's our mantra, but I wanted to say another thing.
Il legame fra veterinario, allevatore e macellaio.
The ties between butcher, rancher, and the person who harvests the animals.
Il legame tradizionale quando si parla di artigiani.
The traditional ties when we're talking about at an artisan level.
Io era vissuto così forte da me.
Was lived so deeply by me.
Che mi sono fatto curare fino a quasi 30 anni dal mio veterinario, non dal mio dottore.
That actually, instead of going to a doctor until I was 30 years old, it was my veterinarian who took care of my personal health.
Really? Fantastic.
Il vero macellaio,
the true butcher,
parla con gli animali.
Talks to the animals.
Gli umani arrivano dopo.
And our human clients come next.
Ma la nostra attenzione
But our attention
è essere come gli animali.
Is to be like the animals.
Sullo stesso piano, abbiamo un cammino insieme.
We have a path to travel together. We're on the same level.
Quando qualcuno mi domanda cosa può succedere dopo.
When someone asks me what is going to be after,
io rispondo che non so. Ma che se hanno ragione i buddisti che rinasciamo in un'altra vita.
I don't know, but if Buddhists are right and we are reborn in a next life.
Può darsi che per il giro delle cose io rinasco manzo.
I think most likely I will be born as a cow.
E vorrei un bravo macellaio artigiano, non un fast food.
And I would definitely like to fall into the hands of a good butcher, not an industrial fast food.
Well, if you are a cow in your next life, I hope to eat you at a restaurant like this.
Se tu sei una mucca nel prossimo vita, spero di mangiarti in un ristorante come questo.
Tell me, from moving from vet to butchery, I understand Dario was lucky enough to have a wonderful old mentor that really walked the path with him. How important was he?
Ho capito che nel passaggio per diventare macellaio bravo hai avuto un mentore. Quanto era importante per te?
È fondamentale.
È fundamental.
Il mentore c'è ancora.
My mentor is still here.
È il mio Yoda.
He's my Yoda.
È il maestro Orlando.
We call him Maestro Orlando.
Did you reach out to him, or did he hear what had happened and that you were leaving veterinary and came to your door?
Te hai cercato lui o lui ha sentito quello che ti era successo e è venuto da te?
Il mio babbo, quando era all'ospedale,
My father from the hospital
mi ha detto: io non riesco più a insegnarti.
told me I don't have time to teach you what you need to know.
Non c'è stato il tempo.
There wasn't time.
La malattia è stata più veloce.
His illness was fast.
Ma cerca Orlando e lui ti guiderà.
But his father said, find Orlando and he will guide you.
Ma io conosco Orlando da 60 anni.
I know Orlando for 60 years now. I've known him.
Ero un bambino piccolo quando ho visto questa figura magica.
I was very young, a boy, when I first saw this magic figure.
Is he still with us?
È sempre con noi.
Anche ora che stiamo parlando, sta lavorando con il manzo.
He's not only with us, he's with us. Right now, as we speak, he's cutting beef down at our cutting room.
Ah, beautiful.
Ha 83 anni.
He's 83.
Beautiful.
E siamo tutti convinti che è immortale.
And we're all convinced he's immortal.
I'm convinced Dario's immortal.
Anche tu sei immortale per me.
I hope they're happy tears.
Yeah, sono lacrime di felicità.
Good. Tell me, in terms of the Dario Empire, I'd really like to talk about where we're sitting. We're sitting in the butcher shop, in the restaurant above the butcher shop. But just so my listeners can understand, we have a butcher shop. We have, I know you don't call it a restaurant, but we have long tables.
Impero qui.
What else is there as part of what I would call the empire?
Oltre ai ristoranti che vedo e la macelleria, cos'altro c'è nel tuo impero?
Io non sono molto attaccato alle cose della vita.
I'm not a person who's particularly attached to things in life.
Ci sono persone che cercano di diventare più ricchi del cimitero.
Some people spend their lives trying to become the richest man in the cemetery.
E spendono la loro vita per questa missione.
And they spend their lives on this mission.
Abbiamo le cose finché siamo vivi
We have our things as long as we're alive,
e dobbiamo prenderci cura delle cose che abbiamo.
and we need to take care of the things that we have.
Ma il mio lavoro è un lavoro sulla piccola comunità di Panzano.
But my work is concentrated here in the small community of Panzano.
Io ho un debito.
I feel in debt.
La comunità di Panzano, il villaggio di Panzano, non siamo nemmeno 1000 persone.
Our little village, we don't even have 1,000 inhabitants.
È un villaggio piccolo.
It's small.
Well, you put it on the world map.
Ha permesso
L'hai messo sulla mappa mondiale.
ha permesso alla mia famiglia di vivere per 7 generazioni.
This town permitted my family to live and thrive for 7 generations.
Quando io sono nato non eravamo ricchi,
When I was born, we weren't well off,
ma avevamo tutto il necessario per essere felici.
but we had everything we needed to be happy.
Io sono l'8ª generazione
I'm the 8th generation,
e cerco di rendere quello che il beneficio, il bene che noi abbiamo avuto.
and I try to give back the good that we have had here in this town.
Se vedo il mio villaggio prosperare,
If I see my village prospering,
è la mia felicità.
that makes me happy.
Una famiglia che può affittare 2 camere per gli ospiti che vengono da fuori.
If a family here has the possibility of renting out an extra room or two,
un bar che può preparare una buona colazione e una fattoria che può vendere meglio una bottiglia di vino.
perhaps they're better off than they were. If the coffee bar can do good business, that makes me happy. If any of the wonderful wineries that are here in our town can be facilitated in selling their wonderful wines, that makes me happy.
Comunque abbiamo 2 ristoranti insieme alla macelleria e un laboratorio abbastanza grande.
Here in Panzano, to answer your question, we have the butcher shop and we have 2 restaurants,
Solo Ciccia, Officina della Bistecca.
Solo Ciccia and the Officina della Bistecca. We have
Chiaramente-
also the aging room and the cutting area.
Chiaramente tutti concentrati intorno e sopra la macelleria.
The restaurants are concentrated here across the street from and above the butcher shop.
Abbiamo un altro ristorante con un socio a Bolgheri.
We have another restaurant together with a partner in Bolgheri, which is about a 2-hour drive straight out to the Tuscan coast.
Un camioncino di panini a Panzano, Cecchini Panini, che ha un grande successo.
We're very happy about the success of our panini truck here.
I enjoyed it yesterday.
Did you?
E cerchiamo di avere sempre prezzi molto buoni per la comunità.
It's important to me that our prices are always very, very good and approachable for our community,
Anche perché la macelleria non chiude mai,
because the butcher shop doesn't ever close,
e nemmeno i ristoranti e nemmeno il camioncino.
and nor do the restaurants, does the food truck. We're open 7 days a week,
È chiuso solo un giorno all'anno, il giorno di Natale.
except for Christmas Day.
I have walked
One
past,
day a week.
We've been
One day
staying,
a year.
We've been staying at Dario's sister's place, and I've walked past early morning and late in the afternoon into the evening, and it's always been open. And it's just the most wonderful energy to walk past. I mean, it gives you a
Visto che sei
lift.
sempre aperto, c'è un'energia che ti tira su.
Sì, sì.
I know you're short for time. You've got people who are dying. How many do you have at lunch today, out of interest?
Quanti ci sono a pranzo oggi?
Oggi è un giorno abbastanza tranquillo.
It's quite a tranquil day.
Ci saranno a pranzo 120-130 persone,
We'll do a seating of 120, 130 at lunch.
più il camioncino
Any
dei
restaurant would be
panini.
very happy with that. I just want to get Dario and your Kim's opinion on some quotes that I've heard Dario say, and I think they're wonderful.
Vi chiedo l'opinione su qualche cosa che ho
Sì.
sentito che hai detto nel passato.
Carne diem is a fun saying, but what's it really mean to you?
Carne diem è divertente, ma cosa vuol dire per te davvero?
Vuol dire che tutti noi dobbiamo cogliere l'attimo della vita.
It means to me that we all need to catch that moment in life.
E chiaramente il macellaio deve cogliere quello della carne.
And clearly a butcher needs to catch the meat moment.
Yes, very
Ma
true.
è anche una citazione della lingua madre del latino.
But it also is a sort of saying from my mother tongue, Latin,
Per non scordarsi mai di dove veniamo
to never forget where we come from
e prendere da lì la forza per andare avanti con coscienza.
and to take from that the energy to move forward in good conscience.
Dario has been heard to say, it's a feeling, not an algorithm. It's a code, not a rule. I love this saying. Can he tell us a little bit more about that?
Hai detto un sentimento non ha un algoritmo?
Può darsi che ho detto qualcosa
Maybe
del
I've said
genere,
something like that.
ma era
I thought it was very intellectual.
era solamente era riferito sicuramente a una cosa che cito spesso.
If I did, certainly it was in reference to something that I often say and think.
Quando macellaio, cuochi giovani o persone giovani
When young people come
mi dicono dammi un consiglio per la vita,
and they say, give me an idea for life, a suggestion.
io dico non usare troppi calcoli mentali, troppi algoritmi.
And I say, don't use too many algorithms, too many mathematical calculations.
Fai come c'è scritto nel Piccolo Principe.
Do instead what I read in the book, The Little Prince.
Quando la volpe gli rivela il segreto.
When the fox reveals the secret.
E gli dice che l'essenziale è invisibile agli occhi.
And he tells the little prince that the essential is invisible to the eye.
Si vede bene solo con il cuore.
You can only truly see with your heart.
Beautiful.
In un mondo in cui contano solo i soldi, contano solo gli algoritmi, segui il tuo cuore.
In a world where it seems that money is the only thing that counts, follow instead your heart.
Hai un solo viaggio nella vita, segui il tuo cuore.
You have just one path through life.
Questo
Follow
è lo
your heart.
spirito
And that is the spirit.
del sentimento e dell'algoritmo.
That's the spirit of the feeling. My feelings about algorithms.
That spirit seems to have carried on to what you call the Republic of the Heart, and you even have a passport that you stamp occasionally. I haven't seen it, but I've seen it on video. Can you explain that?
Questo spirito si vede che ce l'hai in questa Repubblica del Cuore.
Repubblica Gastronomica di Panzano.
It's called the Gastronomic Republic of Panzano.
L'unica repubblica basata sul cuore.
The only republic based on heart.
And it literally is a little passport.
Hai un passaporto?
And how does it work? Some customers are
Come
lucky.
funziona?
Ho fondato la Repubblica Gastronomica 9 anni fa.
So I founded the Gastronomic Republic of Panzano 9 years ago.
Con un grande evento a New York al Four Seasons Restaurant.
During a beautiful event at the Four Seasons restaurant in New York.
All'epoca era il primo ristorante del mondo.
In that time it was one of the top restaurants in the world.
E lo spirito era il più piccolo villaggio nella più grande città nel miglior ristorante.
The spirit was a tiny village in the biggest city in the best restaurant.
E con 300 ospiti.
And with 300 guests there.
Ma solo 14 passaporti.
But only 14 passports in my hand.
Perché i passaporti al momento sono solo 80.
Because at this time, only 80 passports have been granted.
E dare un passaporto.
For me, giving a passport.
C'è una madrina che è la Faith Willinger, la nostra sorella giornalista.
Together with me, the godmother of the Gastronomic Republic of Panzano, Faith Willinger, a journalist.
E io sono una specie di segretario.
She's the godmother, and I'm something like a secretary.
I love it.
È una repubblica che non ha una gerarchia, un'autorità.
We have no authority over anything.
C'è solo il cuore.
Just heart.
Beautiful. Beautiful. 2 more questions. You said no to the president of Rome, which sounds incredibly courageous. Why did you do that?
Hai detto no al presidente di Roma e mi sembra coraggioso. Perché l'hai fatto?
Presidente, come non... Ho detto di no a tanti potenti.
I've said no to a lot of powerful people.
Ma non c'era un motivo preciso o un'ostilità.
There's never a precise motive or hostility involved.
No.
È che se è possibile io sto a Panzano.
It's just that if possible, I stay here in Panzano.
E cerco solo di fare cose che vanno bene per il mio cuore.
And I just try to do the things that make my heart happy.
Non ho bisogno di premi, di riconoscimenti.
I don't need prizes. I don't need recognition.
Io mi devo ricordare tutti i giorni
I just have to remember and remind myself every day
che la cosa più importante della vita è l'amore per la mia moglie.
and that the most important thing in my life is my love for my wife.
E la seconda cosa
And the second most important
è
thing
che io sono il macellaio di Panzano in Chianti.
is that I am a butcher, the butcher of Panzano in Chianti.
E il mio centro del mondo
And my center of the world
è il ceppo dove ha lavorato il mio nonno, il mio babbo e dove ora ho l'onore di lavorare io.
is the butcher block that I stand behind, where my grandfather stood, where my father stood, and where I now have the honor to stand.
È solamente un ceppo di legno
It's just a wooden block.
che non ha un grande valore,
It's not worth a lot,
ma è il mio centro del mondo.
but it's my center of the
È
world.
il mio posto di lavoro nella vita.
It's my workplace.
Non ho bisogno di altro.
It's my life. I don't need anything else.
I feel like I should end the interview here because that was the most beautiful thing I've ever heard in any interview I've done. Excuse me. But, if I can ask this question, if I can get it out through the tears,
I know how it feels.
why aren't there other businesses like this?
La domanda è perché non ci sono altri business come questo?
Io non lo so. Io sono un artigiano
I don't know. I'm an artisan,
e un artigiano deve alzarsi la mattina alle 6,
and an artisan needs to get up in the morning at 7,
lavarsi,
wash up,
dare un bacio alla moglie
give his wife a kiss,
e essere in macelleria alle 7
and to be in the butcher shop at 7.
e fare semplicemente 14 ore minime di lavoro tutti i giorni, tutto l'anno.
And to simply work 14 hours a day, every day of the year. There's the answer to your question about why there aren't more like this. There's not a day ever that Dario wakes up and says, I think I'll just putter around the garden. There's just not a day like that.
Do you wish there was?
No. No, io ho detto che non c'è un giorno che tu ti svegli e dici oggi me ne sto a spasso, e lui chiede lo vorresti? No, I wouldn't, because Dario is Dario. He's happy this way, and his happiness obviously leads to my happiness. I'm a normal person. I take 2 days off.
Good on you. What's your secret to a beautiful marriage?
Qual è il nostro segreto a un matrimonio felice?
Ci adoriamo,
We love each other.
siamo attratti l'uno dall'altro
We're attracted to each other.
ed abbiamo grande rispetto dei nostri caratteri e delle nostre scelte di vita.
And we respect each other's character and choices in life. Here's Kim adding something. I said I wouldn't. I'm going to go ahead and say that the fact that Dario working every day leaves my 2 days, Dario, free. He's not there. He's working. So I leave our home here in the country and I go into Florence and I hang out with my kids every weekend. 2 days. Our life has always had every week a period of 2 or 3 days where I'm concentrating on my kids or myself or what have you. And I think separation a little bit and rejoining together.
Yes. Time apart.
It's magical, and it prolongs a relationship for sure. I don't know if that's given enough importance in relationships.
I think you're right. I'm lost for words. Thank you. You two are beautiful.
Grazie.
Your business is beautiful. Thank you.
Grazie.
Io spero solo, volevo solo dire un'ultima cosa.
I just wanted to add one thing.
Noi siamo come alberi che spargono semi.
I feel strongly that we are like a tree that sends out seeds.
La mia speranza non è diventare il più famoso del mondo, ma la mia speranza e di far vedere una buona strada per le nuove generazioni.
My hope is not to become the most famous butcher in the world, but to shed a light to those who come behind me so that they can find their own paths.
Un artigiano può dare un esempio solo lavorando.
An artisan can only give good example by working hard.
I vecchi contadini da noi dicevano che dobbiamo lasciare la terra un po' meglio di come l'abbiamo trovata.
The old farmers I grew up with used to say, we need to leave the world a little bit better than we found it.
Io spero che il viaggio della mia vita serva a lasciare questo mio lavoro un po' meglio di come l'ho trovato.
I hope my path in life does that, and I am able to leave my world a little bit better than I found it.
Carne
Grazie.
diem.
Carne diem.
Carne diem!
Thank you, brother. And thank you,
Grazie.
sister. Oh, that was
Pleasure.
absolutely beautiful.
Well, there you go, team. World famous butcher and absolutely delightful human being, Dario Cecchini. If you find yourself in Tuscany, then please head straight to Panzano and at the very least, say hi to Dario. At best, book yourself a seat at his long table lunch over at Dario Cecchini. I'll spell it DarioCecchini.com. Mention my name and you'll get a good seat. No, that's not true. But do mention my name. You know, the big guy from Australia. Just say that. Hey, what caught your attention? I'd love to know. Give me a buzz. Give the Small Business Hotline a buzz on 0480 015 150 and let me know. I may play it in an upcoming episode, so be sure to leave your business name for a bit of gratuitous self-promotion. And remember, if you want to see the full interview, watch the full interview of what you just listened to, you can over at patreon.com/marketing podcast.
G'day, Tim. My name's Jared, and I'm from Pacific Plan Management. I've got a bit of a dilemma, which is partly your fault. I'm not sure when I'll be able to listen to your podcast now, as I've just recently resigned from my job of 20 years to work 100% in my own business. So I used to drive about 70 minutes each way to the office, and now it's only 7 minutes in my office closer to home. So it's great that I'll just have to walk the dog a bit more and listen to your podcast because I do love it. So Pacific Plan Management helps NDIS participants manage their funding. We pay their providers and manage their budgets, etc. So we're basically like a bookkeeper for their NDIS funding. We do also provide bookkeeping and MYOB consulting services to small businesses and sole traders, etc. I really enjoy the show. I love listening to people's stories and the ups and downs of business. I've implemented some of your ideas. Some have worked and some didn't, but I really enjoy it and highly recommend it to my friends and my staff that also have their own businesses. So I do love the show. Keep up the good work. Thanks, Tim. Bye.
Hey, Jared, firstly, congrats, brother, on the move away from the cubicle and into your own business. Cutting the commute by 90% is already a pretty solid ROI. You with me? I know that doesn't pay the mortgage, but boy, oh boy, you've got to be happier for that. And well done on implementing some of the ideas picked up over the years from this podcast. Sorry to hear they didn't all work. However, don't lose faith. Sometimes it's just a small tweak, or dare I say, pivot, that's required to see an idea take off in the right direction. Everyone else, be like Jared and give the Small Business Big Marketing Hotline a buzz on 0480 015 150. Let me know an episode you loved, or maybe share a marketing idea that's really working for you. We'd all love to hear from you. 0480 015 150. Righto, it's time for you to take action on what you've learned, because ideas remain exactly that without action. If you'd like to support the work I do for small business and want even more of me, really? Do you want more of me? Then then check out my exclusive business owner membership at patreon.com/marketing podcast, where membership starts at a whopping tax-deductible $8.50 a month. If you enjoyed today's ep, please hit the subscribe button on your podcast app, where you'll find 637 more chats with successful business founders, and they're not in Italian. A big thanks to editor Alex and Sam, who's just come on board, for stitching the marketing gold together, and to our in-house rock star Lockie Doley for the awesome music bed. But most importantly, a big thank you to you for tuning in. May your marketing be the absolute best marketing. Bye for now.